Our trailer uses the conventions of real media products in that it starts with the logo for the production company of the film, as do most real film trailers. In addition, the start of the trailer also displays the certificate of the trailer on a green background, which also follows the convention of real products. The pace of our trailer is very similar to many trailers from the sci-fi genre, with the pace starting fairly slow and increasing in speed until the trailer rush towards the end. However, we also developed this convention by altering the pace and slowing it dramatically at the end of the trailer, which added suspense and tension. This is something which is not usually done in sci-fi trailers, but I think was very effective in ours, as the change of pace kept the audience engaged until the very end of the trailer. The narrative order of our trailer followed the usual narrative of sci-fi trailers very closely. The graphs shown comparing the narrative for a real trailer and ours clearly demonstrate this, as the pattern of narrative seen is very similar for both. The narrative for a trailer is rather different to the narrative for a film as proposed by Todorov, with the narrative of a trailer focusing on the beginning and middle of the plot of a film and not giving anything away about the resolution of the plot. Todorov proposes that narratives both begin and end with equilibrium. However, this cannot be said for a trailer, as whilst trailers begin with equilibrium, they never show the return to equilibrium in order to keep the audience in suspense and make them want to watch the film. Therefore, our trailer followed the conventions of real media products in this sense by not showing the return to equilibrium at the end of the film. Our trailer challenges conventions of the science fiction genre in that it features a female protagonist. Usually science fiction films have protagonists that are stereotypically male, so by having a strong female protagonist we challenge this convention, presenting something somewhat unusual to our audience, inspired by the strong female characters in films such as Blade Runner, Alien, and more recently The Hunger Games. In addition, our villains were also female, something which is a unique selling point for our film because it is highly unusual of the genre. To demonstrate this, I used pink as a key colour in my products. In terms of sound, we very closely followed the conventions of trailers. We decided to use a voiceover of our protagonist, something which is very common in all trailers, particularly ones from the sci-fi genre. We also used dramatic, tense music to add to the mood of the trailer, which again fits with the conventions of the science fiction genre. We found that lots of trailers have music that gets louder, heavier, and more dramatic as the trailer progresses, and so we followed this pattern in our trailer, with increasing drama of the soundtrack mirroring the increasing pace of the takes. Our trailer was inspired by numerous science fiction trailers we watched. The mood, setting, and atmosphere of our trailer was inspired by trailers for films such as The Maze Runner and The Hunger Games, which both included a frantic, fast-paced feel in a forest setting with young protagonists, something we wanted to achieve in order to reach out to our target audience of young adults. I also really enjoyed the trailers from the superhero genre for Avengers Assemble, The Dark Knight Rises, and Man of Steel. I was particularly inspired by the pace and narrative of that trailer, with the slow pace at the start and the feeling of flashbacks, both of which we tried to include in our trailer. My magazine front cover very closely used the conventions of popular film magazines such as Empire and Total Film, and I tried to make sure that my front cover looked as professional and genuine as possible, as well as allowing it to connect with my other products. I also wanted it to appeal to my target audience of young adults, mostly female, which is why I used the bright colour scheme with pink in order for the product to really stand out from others. The layout of my front cover was very similar to many real examples I looked at, with a key image of the protagonists of the film in the centre of the piece looking directly at the camera. Like real media products, I kept their clothing in coordination with the colour scheme of the front cover, which meant that the viewer's attention would be drawn more to their facial expressions. I also had the masthead in bold lettering at the top of my front cover, something which is very conventional of real products, along with the use of the magazine issue date and magazine company website just below the masthead. The use of the banner across the key image towards the bottom of the cover is also conventional of a product such as this, particularly a cover advertising a major blockbuster or sci-fi film. I also used the convention of having other major films advertised along the bottom of the cover, something which was common in real products and something which I decided to use because I thought it was really effective in drawing the attention of the viewer to the features of the magazine. I also paid close attention to the kind of language used on real magazine front covers and tried to follow the conventions. I noticed that real magazines use lots of hyperbolic and persuasive language such as exclusive, hot, and iconic, which really tries to grab the viewer and convince them to read the magazine. I also noticed that lots of covers use personal pronouns and direct address with you and your, as well as first-person language such as and we, in order to create a relationship between the reader and the publication, again drawing in the target audience. So I made sure to follow this convention for my front cover. With regards to the colour scheme of my cover, I noticed that most real products use no more than 3 or 4 colours in their scheme, and so I followed this rule for my product. I was really inspired by 2 magazine front covers in particular, both of which were issues of Empire, from January 2008 and March 2014. I really liked the bold, bright colours and language used on the January 2008 cover, and was also really inspired by the way that the cover really captured the mood of the film. I also liked the way the cover featured a villain from the film, and so chose to include a villain on my cover too. My cover was, however, more closely inspired by the March 2014 issue of Empire. I love the colour scheme for these covers. There were multiple character covers for this issue, and chose to use similar colours for my cover, the outcome of which I'm really pleased with. I also liked the real character to focus on these covers, and so chose to focus on the characters in my film rather than the actors for my front cover. I think this is particularly effective for a film such as mine, as I think that the unique plot and character set is more of a USP than the actors involved, and therefore to convey this to the audience it was key that this was demonstrated through clear focus on character. For my poster, I wanted to feature lots of the main characters of the film and hint at the genre without giving too much away. I found in my research that many of film posters also did this, featuring numerous characters from the film, often with the protagonist being the largest image, so I chose to use this convention. I also found that most posters, like magazine front covers, used a limited colour scheme, keeping to often neutral or monochromatic tones with a pop of 1 or 2 bright colours, which I decided to follow for my poster. I decided to use the bright pink I used on my magazine cover for my poster to create a clear connection between the two. I also use this colour as it links to the USP of my film having a largely female cast, including female cyborg villains, and I think that the pink colour really plays on this and advertises it. Also, when contrasted with the grey, the pink shows the uniqueness of our film standing out from most other science fiction films with mostly male characters, which appeals to our largely female target audience. I really liked the use of the low opacity on certain movie posters, such as the poster for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and the black background used on posters for films such as Divergent and The Hunger Games, both films which are aimed at similar target audience to my film. I therefore used similar ideas on my poster, using a black background and lower opacity on certain images. I was also inspired by the composition of one of the posters for the film Twilight, where all of the characters were facing different directions, and so tried to create a somewhat similar composition for my poster. I did, however, develop this as I chose to have some characters larger than others in order to draw the viewer's attention to them.